I would have thought it would be all organised when I got back, to be honest.
Well, it's not.
Hello everyone, welcome to The Deep Drop. This is a fishing podcast and my name is Luke McCredden and Adam Ring is with me as always. Adam, what is The Deep Drop fishing podcast all about in a nutshell, please?
The Deep Drop is literally everything.
Okay,
from
done. Move on.
From the tiniest thing, to the biggest thing in fishing and everything in between. We're not afraid to ask the small questions.
Yeah.
We're not afraid to ask the big questions.
Yeah.
But more importantly, we're not afraid to throw our answers at any of them.
Exactly. And then, hey, we got to, straight off the top, these aren't definitive answers. These are
No, they're
our
not.
opinions and observations. Now, we've been in the industry for a fair while, lads, you and I, and all sorts of facets of it, retail, wholesale, media, whatever.
Yeah.
So it's just our observations, and I think that's a big part of it. And ultimately, we're asking the questions straight back to you guys, the listeners, and that's what it's all about for us. So we throw the questions back to you, and then we riff on them together as a group, as a giant family here at the Deep Drop.
Exactly. Now, Instagram is where you will go, find the Deep Drop, hit the... What do you do on Instagram? Do you subscribe or do you
Fucking
just
hell.
hit the button that says it shows you our shit when we post it?
You jump on there, find the Deep Drop, subscribe to follow the page for sure.
Yeah, follow. That's what I was looking for. That's follow. So follow the Deep Drop on Instagram. And for those that already do...
Also follow on Spotify, because you know what?
Yes.
Now you can actually interact on Spotify ads. There's comments, sections, there's all sorts of shit. It's
Damn.
oh yeah, it's its own platform now. So get on that.
Okay, we'll have to write that down for next week's intro. So Instagram's where you want to go, and also Spotify. Check the little, I guess, the bit underneath the Deep Drop thing. There could be all sorts of stuff to interact with there, which is pretty cool. But for those that have already followed us on Instagram, thank you. Well played.
Well done.
And you would have seen that we didn't do much last week. Well, that's a lie. I didn't do much last week. But Luke, you actually got on a plane.
Yeah.
You flew over to the United States.
Yeah.
And you attended ICAST. Now, before I start asking questions, because once I get going, Luke, you are not going to be able to stop me.
Yes.
I have so many questions about ICAST.
Yeah.
Just briefly fill in the people listening what ICAST actually is and why it's so important to someone like you and I.
All right, yeah. So ICAST is a trade show for the fishing tackle industry, fishing retail industry. It's run by the ASA, which is the American Sport Fishing Association. So those of you that might be familiar locally, you've probably heard us talk about AFTA, for example, which is our, I suppose, industry group that help run. We have the trade show here as well, and various parts of the tackle industry and retail industry. Well, this is that on steroids. So as we know, Americans do everything big. There's nothing small about what they do. But ICAST Ads has been, as you know, and a lot of people know, the benchmark and for the biggest fishing trade show in the world. And it's something that we've spoken about for as long as I have known you, Ads, is something we'd always like to go and tick off and check out. The last few years it's been, or for a fair while now, it's been in Florida, in Orlando, and had an opportunity this year, albeit last minute, to jump on a plane and head over, and obviously doing it with the Anaconda crew, and a massive shout out. It was a great opportunity to do, and I know you would have been the same when that opportunity arises. There wasn't much thinking about it. It was like, let's do this.
Just say yes and work the rest out later.
Work the rest out later. So ICAST, basically a tackle trade show. And obviously the American fishing industry is enormous. It's a huge part of their economy as far when it comes to that retail market. We know and have heard of the Bass Pro stores, some of their other outdoor stores. They've got a lot of pro stores over there as well. It's a huge, huge market. We've heard about the bass tournaments and that scene is just off its face, and it's just a multi-million-dollar sporting industry in its own right. So it's a mega thing, and it's not a, we talk about, and I sort of mentioned there, tongue-in-cheek, Americans do things big. They do, but it is a huge, huge industry in the States. And look, I think comparatively, it's big for us too, but we're just obviously a small scale as far as population goes. So it's not as if we don't take it any more seriously, or the revenue stream for the market isn't big here either. But it's just it's a major part of life over there, and to be able to go and check it out, it was mind blowing and a great opportunity. And only being home a day or two, obviously one of the first things I did was jump on the phone to you and have a chat and probably chew your ear off for a couple of hours. But yeah, mate, unbelievable, and just a mind blowing to check it all out.
So we have caught up briefly, and again, there's so many questions, but I want to probably try and stay away from the question, the obvious ones, because there's one thing, like we obviously love fishing, we dearly love the industry that we're in, and when you get to see it on a scale that is something that we can't even comprehend. And it was probably one of the biggest things I got out of our early conversations with you since you've been back. And like I said, you've only been back 48 hours. I did see some drone footage. That's right. Yeah. They needed a drone to fly around the convention centre.
And I think I shared that on the Deep Drop page. So if you did catch that in the stories, I might do it again at some point this week.
Unbelievable. It just keeps going.
Yeah.
It just keeps going.
It does.
So it's obviously the scale is huge. How does it compare to our own in the fact that is there a large diversity of different fishing styles and applications at ICAST, or is it just big because there's just so many manufacturers doing similar things? Like you use the bass scene, for example. Yeah. Is it just because it is so popular, or is it quite a diverse scene compared to what we have in Australia?
It's a great question, because it was probably, I was kind of probably expecting a vast majority of it to be based around the bass fishing market. Now, don't get me wrong. It probably was majority bass fishing, but not as much as I thought, if that makes sense. So I kind of thought it would be almost exclusively that, based on what you hear here. And that obviously there's the blue water fishery, there's strong trout fishery and all that. But what was cool was there was huge sections of fly fishing. Huge. Like it was, there was basically a whole section cordoned off and it was all fly. Now, obviously you would have steered well clear of that. But it was actually, and with all due respect, it was cool to walk through and get just get an idea of the scale of that market, because you're like, fuck, this is huge in its own right. There was a massive blue water contingent there as well, which was great, and it was scattered around the joint, so it certainly wasn't sections of fishing application or anything like that. But you've got obviously brands like Rapala, who you're part of here in Australia, which is massive in the States, and they cover, as Rapala does here, fresh, salt, and everything in between, and obviously the bass market as well. So there was kind of more of a mix than I probably anticipated, if that makes sense. Which was really good actually to see. Now there was also what you'd almost call just some general stuff, some general purpose stuff. So there was a lot of entry level kids type stuff. It wasn't all about that hardcore fishing market, which was good. And I didn't expect it to be all hardcore fishing market, but yeah, there was certainly a good diverse mix of everything, to your point. But so that was kind of cool actually, because don't get me wrong, there was a massive bass, and like bass fishing, it's everywhere. Florida alone, you fly in and you just look down and there is just lakes and ponds and rivers everywhere, and they've all got bass in them. I caught up with Jet Worsling on one of the days. He and Paul were cruising around, and Jet was getting up, having brekkie, just walking down to a dam on the side of the road and just catching big bass, like proper. And it's like, oh, he's like, yeah, you just go anywhere. They're everywhere. So it's kind of like that. And then obviously there's the bigger impoundments and the bigger lakes that are the proper ones, which are huge. Like, some of them are, just massive bodies of water. So while that is probably the majority, there was a really strong mix of everything in between, which was great, actually. You didn't get sick of it.
So are we missing out on much in Australia? And when it comes to just the raw tackle part of it, and I know I just assume that in Australia we just get a tiny percentage of fishing tackle that's available. Did you get overwhelmed by things that you had never heard of, or stuff that just we would not see here?
Yeah,
because we are such a small market.
Hand on heart, I don't reckon. I reckon we've got access to and have in our market everything when I say everything we need. Like you and I are tackle junkies, and we should preface this in this episode. We're massive nerds when it comes to this stuff, Ads, you and I. So we will talk. We can and we will talk about this for a long time. So, but I don't. I'll always welcome new and sometimes even stuff that you're not sure of, just to give it a go. And we've done that over the years. But there wasn't anything that I thought, far out, why can't, like, as in from a big scale point of view, we should get this into our market. There might have been little things where you go, oh, we could do that particular model of soft plastic that we haven't got in that brand over there yet. But for me, it was like, I think we've got what we need. Now, there'll be people out there listening going, oh, but we really need these. What's that fucking category that you're always banging on about?
BFS.
Yeah. So there might be bits and pieces like that. But what I think's happened over the last, I don't know, we'll call it 5 to 10 years. I don't know. I'm just throwing out a number. Yeah. But I think what Australia's done really well is really manipulate our own range and our own fisheries to stand alone. Like, so, for example, over the last few years at AFTA, our trade show, there's stuff there that you won't even see in the States because it's cod specific, or it's you know what I mean? So
yeah, it's
kind of like each to their own in a way. But I feel like walking through the majority, especially we'll call them the big brands, whether it's the Rapalas, Daiwas, Shimano's, that you go, well, you know what? I think there might be bits and pieces here and there that we don't see in Australia, and maybe that's because there's various reasons. But across the board, I think we're pretty good, and I think the guys that run these Australian arms of these global companies, they're fishers. We speak about this all the time, and they've got their finger on the pulse from a market point of view, but also from a fishery point of view, and I think they get in the best of what's available for our market. So I don't think we're missing out too much. There's always going to be things that we latch onto, and don't get me wrong, I've got a few things that I want to bring into our market to too. But it's there wasn't a heap of stuff that screamed out far out. Why can't we get that? If that makes sense.
I feel as though that's a fairly recent change as well, because it's only in recent times, an exact year mark, I don't know, I'm hopeless with that sort of stuff, but there was a big push between those major brands I'm talking, not small lure manufacturers but the Shimano's and the Daiwas and the Pure Fishings. They do now plan and release things globally.
Yep.
And I think the internet was a massive.
Yeah.
It was a massive reason for it, because now all of a sudden you had people from different regions being able to purchase internationally and get stuff over. It made sense that they did it, and I'm glad they really did, because you're right, Luke. The stuff we miss out on, say, just talk from a real standpoint, in my opinion, the stuff that we miss out on in Australia is so niche and fine-tuned that we probably, it'd be nice to have it, but all that's going to do is just give us this sea of stuff that it's not going to lead to any bulk turnover, which is everything. But for example, you might take a normal spin reel. It doesn't matter who the manufacturer is or what it is. Once you start getting overseas, in particular, I find in those Asian markets, different gear ratios, different oscillation speeds, different spool widths, and that it's getting really specific over there, and it's awesome because the market's 50 times the size. But I think it's been one of the biggest things that doesn't get spoken about in fishing, that a lot of the big popular brands now have worldwide releases.
Yep.
Which is really cool. But so that's its own thing. That's great. We don't miss out. What about on a fine-tuned thing? Is there I mean, the lure market's huge. Was there something obscure or not what you expected that you saw that you thought, this has got Australia written all over it, but could we pull it off? It would take some work. Is it a technique? Is it a specific thing?
Yeah. I think it's probably versions of what we've got. So if that makes sense. So I think we've got, let's talk about our soft plastic market. I think there's a big swim bait push over there. And when I say that, from 4 to 8 inch, paddle tail swim baits or whatever. And then there's versions of that might have something a bit obscure, which kind of suits there. And I think, I feel like one of their go-tos is just to chuck a blade on it. Whatever it is, whether it's a hard body, a soft bait, whatever, chuck a blade on it because bass like blades, it's what's interesting is there were a few product releases, like say global releases, that we've already seen our local distributors get their hands on, and they'll be releasing in a month's time at AFTA. So I'm like, to your point, you're right. I think that. And I'm not saying that they're looking at Australia now as a big player, because reality is we're a very small fish in a big market.
Solely based on population density.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's what it is. I actually think that, and this is probably another conversation, but we probably bat above our,
Yeah, I think so.
Like quite a bit. And even when it comes to ranging, what they do have, and again, I just would think it's about scale and population, but also number of, localized productions as well, is a heap of brands in the soft baits, for example. Like you'll go into a Bass Pro and rather than there being a staple of 2 or 3 key soft plastic brands and maybe a couple of, like, there'd be, 12 to 20 brands of soft plastics.
All right, okay, so this is a great example because there is some stuff that we can use in
that's
Australia.
Just a rough figure. They're probably more.
So do the small manufacturers that say might only do a soft plastic, or soft plastic is their main thing, do they have stands at ICAST?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
Because this is one thing that I've found with AFTA over the years.
Sorry to cut you off. Some of them will be distributed by... You know what I mean? So there might be I think the majority will have their own stand for sure, and then there'll be some that'll be a part of a distributorship. But they're still local brands, if that makes sense. This
is interesting. So say there's a couple that spring to mind in Australia, and we're Victorian based, so it's it might be a little bit of a thing down here. But take soft plastics brands down here like Strike Tiger or Munros, or those that seem to be small, like really small companies that specify in. They do some other things, but they specify in that. Yeah. We don't see them at our trade show anymore.
No. Let's call them, and this is not in any disrespect, like backyarder type.
Yeah, they're more guys,
which is kind of the throwaway nickname, but it's like they're very specialist in very. Yeah, and I don't like using the word niche, but yeah. They won't. It's almost like.
Well, I guess the question is ICAST? Did ICAST feel when you walked through there that it was the be all and end all of American fishing? If you wanted to be anything, specifically from a product standpoint, if you wanted to be anything in the American market, you simply have to be at ICAST.
Yeah,
did you get a sense of it at all?
Probably. Yeah, I think so, because there wasn't, again, we did some store visits and stuff too, and there wasn't much that you saw in store that wasn't represented at the trade show. So I think it's a big thing. One of the things with some of these smaller brands in the States, or just every brand in general, and I kind of noticed it, particularly as the show went on into day 2 and 3, I took more notice of it. Big or small, so whether you're Shimano or whether you are a manufacturer of a soft plastic brand that has a dozen SKUs, they are all attached to tournament anglers. Every single one of them. And that, I think, could be the difference between putting some, and I won't say legitimacy, but putting some runs on the board to allow them to represent at a big show like that, knowing that they've got some backing nationally, or it might be localized into one particular corner of the States or whatever it is, but they've got their brand on a shirt of an angler that's, as we know, that bass tournament scene is, they're
massive.
Celebrities, mate. Like it's proper. So that was noticeable. And look, I don't know that in that side of the industry all that well. I don't follow the tournament scene. I know plenty of people here do, but I don't reckon there's many brands in that lure space in particular that aren't attached to one of those anglers. Does that make sense?
That's actually insanely fascinating, because you said for something here in Australia, it's not a thing.
No.
At all.
No.
So was there, on each of these stands, right, so were all of these anglers, these tournament anglers, were they on these stands?
Yeah. Oh, there were fucking heaps of them, ads.
Well, and the reason, and mate,
it's a good one, and I like where you're going with it, because I want to talk about it.
The reason I ask is because, if anything, it's probably been a criticism of our own trade show in Australia.
Yeah.
We're starting to go down that path. Now, we don't have the tournament scene, so they're not tournament anglers per se. They're the influencers and all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
So I actually wanted to raise this with you tonight, because as a bit of an observation from being at AFTA for however many years and now seeing ICAST, and purely by the viewing let's just call them pro staff, so whether they're a high-end tournament angler or they're an influencer in Australia or whatever it is, the guys, I don't know if this is controversial or not. I sometimes question the pro staff people that attend our trade show here in Australia, and it came to the reason I think it came to light while I was in the States, because the pro staffers there, so the tournament guys there that are on almost every single stand, if not every stand, sell that product and that brand like it is their own, and I was blown away. Not selling it. Look, listen, don't get me wrong. Those bass fishermen love to tell you how good they are.
Yeah.
and they may be.
Yeah.
But what they did unbelievably well was make me go, well, fuck me, I need this product. And then when it comes to the point, like, so if you're a pro store in the States and you get sold this dream and you go, all right, well, let's talk about an account, then that's when they turn around and go, let me get Johnny over here, and he's the business manager. He'll take you through the next steps. But these guys would spend as long as you want talking through this product. They'll give you every speck of detail. A lot of these guys are part of the design process as well, so they know this stuff back to front. And I thought, that's it. That's where I think we're lacking here. And
so
again,
they're literally brand ambassadors.
100%.
They're not just some good fish.
They're not just
some free lures.
They're not just paid to spruik it. They're not just getting some gear and being a face of it. It's like they have memorized the catalog.
Is that something that you could see ever happens here? Because personally, I can't see it.
No, but I will say this, and this was my takeaway, that if there is a brand here that grabs their pro team or whoever's going to represent them at these shows, or not even at the trade shows, by the way. So these tournament guys, they'll spruik this product wherever they are in the country. If they're in a store, doing a store visit, doing one of their tournaments, whatever it is.
Yeah.
If we can, if you're a brand here and you get your pro team on that same level, I can guarantee that you will get a sales increase. I guarantee it, because the way these guys spoke about it was it sold it so much, and you just go far out. Like, yeah, because what you start doing is you go, all right, well, old mate's the owner of the business. He's going to want to sell it because he's got financial investment. But this guy's, an ambassador, and he's selling it to me like, I need this. And all of a sudden you go, well, I'm trusting what he's saying. He's an actual angler. Do you know what I mean? I'm just being I'm being a customer 100%. or a
100%.
So they did it unbelievably well, and they were all the same. That was just wide. It's just part of the deal. If you're coming on as a angler, pro angler, whatever you want to call it, you need to be 100% across my product. Otherwise, you're not part of the team, sort of thing. So
was there a schedule at which you knew those pro anglers or brand ambassadors, whatever they were going to be? Because you have a look at some of those bass anglers. You have a look at their jerseys, and it is just loaded. Like,
yeah,
you can be a brand ambassador for Shimano, and then also be a part of the Rapala team as well, because you're using Rapala lures. Did they float?
Yeah, there was plenty of floating going on, because and one of them. I mean, you could sort of see it, but also there was a few instances where you'd run into the same person, and you're like, oh, hey, and he was on a different stand. So
yeah, cool.
But yeah, I was really impressed with that. I thought, no, that's, I mean, to me, that's what we don't have, and that's one of my frustrations about some of the people that are on the stands. Like, coming from maybe a peek behind the curtain, but as a buyer going to our local trade show, and there's someone standing there that's giving no value to the stand that they're standing on, I don't see any point in them being there.
So would a huge part of the reason for that literally just be dollars and cents? Because obviously these pro staffers are brand ambassadors overseas. They're getting paid. They're not just getting product, but they're getting paid. They'd be getting paid lots of money from these.
And look, it's a different ball game, and I understand that, and a lot of them, and I don't know. I don't know the ins and outs. I know there's a few people that listen to this podcast that are right across that tournament scene, so they'll probably be pulling me up as I'm talking. But a lot of them are, they in these tournaments as a full-time gig, so they need these partnerships to fund it. So it's in their best interests to be very well educated in the product that they're getting paid to use, I guess, or being sponsored by. So, but at the same time, it's within their best interest, because they want to keep the relationship and.
But the most fascinating part, and the bit that stands out the most to me in everything you just said, was that those brand ambassadors, they knew the product inside and out. It doesn't feel as though we have that here. Because there's some unbelievable fishermen that are fishing some of these lures here, and hey, they've done ridiculous. Like, we have seen lures that no one had either known of or cared about become the most popular in their field because so it 100% works. I'm not knocking them at all.
No,
but they don't seem the depth of it for them. Is just that lure works. Yeah. So they know how to fish that. They know how to fish that lure. They know what it does.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean?
But what's it made out of, and what's the history behind it?
And not at the end of the day, not really. That doesn't really matter.
No, I know. But I think.
But from a sales standpoint, See, you're buying the product coming into Australia. I'm selling it.
Yeah.
So I've always been a huge believer that the knowledge, and if you can sell the story, you're miles in front of just going, here, look at this lure. It looks fucking awesome, and it swims good.
But that's exactly what I'm saying. So if you can get people that can can sell that story. Like that's where you'll just spike. Like it's going to be a huge advantage. There's a few. Don't get me wrong, and I'm not trying to be an arsehole.
No.
Like,
No, this is not a negative. This is not a negative conversation.
It was just a really interesting observation. And again, it's you're going from our scale to jumbo scale. Like it's crazy. It's all relative. But it was an interesting one that, it was certainly one that jumped out at me, given that where I'm positioned at looking at our pro staffers and stuff locally and their position in, a local trade show.
All right, that's interesting. But you know what? It's time to talk some of the sexy stuff, Luke.
Yeah.
Hit me with some product. What do I need to know about? So for us, our trade show's in about 3 weeks. Obviously, I'm across everything that's coming out in Australia for Rapala. But what did you see? What was the... Listen, I'd assume that ICAST is the same as AFTA in this regard. There's always a handful of products that everyone seems to be talking about. Where everyone goes, have you seen this? Have you seen that? Like, what was there anything? Is the show simply too big for that to even exist?
Let me talk a bit about scale, because we probably didn't do that at the start. I want to give an idea to people, and look, you don't need to be in the industry to understand this, but think about walking around. Well, for you and anyone in the industry listening, walking around our local trade show, but if not, just around a fair or something like that. We spent day one probably, and we weren't rushing around. We were obviously taking our time, having a look at stuff, and just didn't want to rush. We had 3 days, but we walked around for the best part of whatever it was, 7 hours or something, and we barely got through half of it. So, and it's hard to try and picture that, but that's a long day, and barely scratched the surface. So we got through all of it after day 2, but it was 2 big days and then day 3 circling back and checking things out and going over some notes and bits and pieces. So it's a monster of an event, which I expected, but you don't. It's not until you sort of walk in the door and go, "Oh Jesus, fucking, we're going to be here a while." You can't go for one day to a show like that because you just won't see everything. There's certainly. So actually, the first night, so the actual night before the show starts, there's a new product showcase.
Okay.
That's cool. Which is massive in its own right, but it's basically a handful of products from each category. So, there was a heap of categories, but it's, for example, freshwater rods, saltwater rods, freshwater reels, salt. You know what I mean? So there's all, and then the same for lures, terminal tackle, tools, storage, all that line. And it was also where you'd go and vote. So there were no suppliers allowed to be there. It was all just punters, so as in retailers, so to speak.
Yeah.
So that's where you'd sort of go and check out all the new stuff. Now we got around that. We spent a couple of hours there. Obviously, as they do there, they put on beers.
Nice. Classic
Keeps the
fishing
crowd
trade show.
Engaged.
Yep.
Jeez. There's no shortage of that. And then you sort of get around and check it all out, and you can they had a ballot. It was almost like a ballot sheet, like in an election. But you go through and you. But it was kind of, I think the general consensus was, and this is not a knock, by the way, there was nothing that blew anyone's socks off. So there was nothing that made you go, like where everyone was like, dude, you got to go check that, unbelievable, But, and I want to circle back to that in just a sec, but there was heaps of versions of, so it might be someone who's done a 5-inch jerk shad really well has done it again, but just added something, and you go, ooh, okay, cool. So there's plenty of, that's cool. So there's plenty of that commentary going around, but nothing that sort of that stopped the show and went far out. But then I was thinking, that doesn't happen very often.
No,
It's
it doesn't.
so hard to do.
Yep,
And
it doesn't.
And I was actually thinking about some of the things in our market that has had that effect over the years. And
Oh, this is great. This is great.
And I remember, and you would probably be across this even more than me, like some of the things that has made everyone go, shit, like check that out. Remember Cranker Crabs was one of those products that everyone was like far out, like unbelievable.
Yep. Chase bait squid.
Yes. Yep. I think the Nomad version of that Squid Trex. Yep. So, so there's been that. But again, few and far between, because far out, it's such a flooded. I don't know if flooded's the right word, but
no, it is though.
I think, especially in a lure space, like how do you create something that's so unique that makes people go, "Holy shit"?
Yep, it's this. But I think that is the theme of. I think in Australia we have the same. It's not really an issue. It's just what more can physically be done.
Yeah. So I think what we're seeing now, and if we talk about things that were, I suppose, like a hot topic, and one of the probably on point topics throughout the whole show, and even just doing a bit of homework in the lead up to ICAST, was a focus on FFS, forward facing sonar. Which,
okay.
Yeah.
Is that LiveScope?
Yeah, but designing products to so it was all around, and those tournament guys are so across it. And if you ask them, fucking be prepared to be there for half an hour to listen to their answer. But because for them, it's like, all right, well, I need to make sure I can see my lure in the water on LiveScope. So they're designing lures now with particular plates of, different materials and metals.
No shit.
That picks up that on LiveScope clearer. Same as soft baits. So, yeah, there was a trend in the I know in the Berkeley stable they've really spent a lot of time and energy on their designs in their hard baits in particular, for that particular reason. So, and as we know that the tournament scene there and the scale of that, and obviously that technology is, but even from an amateur side of things, just people that are bass fishing or whatever it is, using that sort of technology now.
That will happen here too, by the way.
It will, and it is, and we will see some of that at AFTA, across various brands and in the lure space. So, and then there's discussion around, well, what's going to come for line? Is there going to be fishing line that's got something in it that gets picked up more in that zone, in that live scope and that sort of thing? So it's kind of the next thing to evolve out of this technology. So that's the thing about live scope and these electronic sort of developments, is it makes the lure manufacturers or the line manufacturers go, well, we need to keep up and make sure our products are relevant to that technology. So that was kind of cool. So there was definitely that, I guess, that kind of was a bit of the talk of the town, and it wasn't flooded with that sort of tech in lures, but it was certainly a big part of it. And the other one was probably, and actually we spoke about it. It might have been last week or the last episode, but the soft plastic thing was dominant.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
So same over there. They're in a soft plastic cycle in the lure market.
Yeah, and that's an observation. So but I think that's the trend at the moment there. So it was certainly seemed that way in stores as well when you go into stores. But then from what brands and some of the exhibitors were showcasing as they're new, there was masses of soft baits compared to the hard bodies. But as you know, there's always real developments and refreshers of models of ranges and that sort of thing. We're going to see some of that. I don't even know. There's probably some I probably can't even talk about, which is a bit weird. But there's going to be some that we'll do an after recap too in a couple of weeks' time, ads, which will be going into detail about the stuff in our market. But for the most part, like the Shimanos and Daiwas of the world, Rapala, as you already know. But it's like I said, nothing that's making people go, holy shit, stop the bus.
Yeah.
We need to check this out. But it's like, okay, cool. I see what we've done there. That's nice. Nice little addition to a range or a nice bit of a tech development. So, yeah, for me, it was like, what can you give us? What can you show us? It's currently in the market as a style or a range, but it's just the next thing to add into that range. So I think there were some cool little bits and pieces even in colorways. But as I said before, it might be a 5-inch swim bait. Well, what do you do there? You chuck an extra fin here and there, and it changes the way it swims. And it's like, all right. A lot of the guys too had tanks at their stand, so they were swimming a lot of their lures in front of you, and that was kind of cool to see too. So, yeah, I think it's about working with what you've got and then trying to make it better, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
As opposed to just developing something out of thin air that's just unique, because far out.
It's almost
hats off
impossible.
to anyone who can just come up with something that's brand spanking new and unique. Because
it's almost impossible, I think.
Yeah,
and I'm sure I'll be proved wrong, if not this year and years to come. But even talking about that forward-facing sonar and materials going into lures so that it's picked up, easier with forward-facing sonar. That's still just mucking around with existing tail. They're not making anything of a brand new shape that shows up, or it's a material thing.
I was enjoying sort of talking to some of the locals, whether they were actual retailers or just some of the pro guys over there, about products. And, there would be a new release on frogs. They love their frog fishing.
Yeah.
And there's a bit of hype around it. And I'd grab it and I'd say, what's different about this? There's 1 million frogs in your bass market. Why this? And, no, this one. And they go so micro in that it might be a slight variation to the material. The last frog was, 1 mil thick material. This one's 0.8. And it when a bass bites it, it feels more, and you go far out. Okay, it makes sense.
It makes sense.
It's like, so I think there's a lot of that. It's getting a lot more like granular in how can we make what's already really good and works well and sells well better.
Yeah.
It seems crazy,
which is not a bad thing, because everything, you know what I mean? You can make things better.
No, for sure. And I think there's a huge opportunity for all that. And it's kind of what's cool about it. Like from our point of view, it's like we've got some cool gear. If you're going to make it better, sweet.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm all for it. You know what they don't? What's lacking as far as differences in our market and theirs that stood out to me, only because I'm bit of a lure junkie and love that we've got a huge top water market, and particularly in the fresh sort of scene with cod and barra, I suppose, too. But it's not as much, and I know we've got different species, but there's obviously, some top water, walk the dog style stuff, the frogs and that sort of thing, but not big and noisy. And, it was very realistic type stuff. So we've got some stuff you chuck around and you go, what is that? What's that imitating?
What's it trying to achieve?
And I think a lot of it comes down to the species that we're designing them for too. I think for the most part, a Murray cod sees and eats.
And you've got to wake it up. It's not about spooking it. It's about literally just getting its attention.
And I don't know anything about the bass fishing over there, but for maybe those fish think a bit more about it before they bite. I'm not sure. But yeah, so there's a few little differences and intricacies like that it's cool. I'm really, I don't know, I get a bit like, I'm proud of where our market's at the moment. I like the Australian fishing tackle market. Like, I think we've got it to a point where it is ours. And don't get me wrong, we've got global brands like, Rapala and Shimano and all these guys. But I think now we're in a position where we really are and do have the opportunity, and we've spoken to Crush City, for example, that you guys basically created the Australian range for it, which is so cool.
Yeah.
So cool. And I think that's what is setting, and even talking to about barra and Murray cod, even some of the offshore, like our tuna fishery and kingfish and stuff. and you see their eyes open up going, oh, right. Like, some of them don't really understand it. You even flick through a few photos and stuff, and they're like, holy shit, like it's a proper fish. You're like, yeah, we've got some cool stuff down there. Don't worry about it. But for the most part, like the global companies are across it now. It's a part of their thing. They have to respect it.
Oh, for sure. It's a massive testament to where our industry was compared to where it is now. Because you're right. I think on a global scale, I think Australia is probably the biggest it's ever been.
Yeah.
And listen, I'm not trying to say that it's a major player.
Nah.
It's not. It never ever will be, solely based on just the amount of people, where everything in Australia is essentially coastal. All the centre of Australia, there's just bugger all people there. So there's zero market there.
Yeah.
So I get it. But it is pretty cool that not only we have access to majority of it.
Yeah.
Because even with some of the stuff that you would have seen there based around bass, if we really wanted it in Australia, that we could get it. I don't see why we couldn't get it. It's just,
Little teaser. So I'll go back to your original question in a minute too, because I didn't really answer it. But little teaser, there are a few things that I'm fortunate. I've got this amazing, I suppose, role where I can influence what comes into the market in a lot of ways. I don't want to, we don't need to go too far into that, but so there will be some stuff coming that currently isn't in Australia. Just some might be little bits and pieces of, particularly in that lure space. So I do want people to keep an eye out for that. And again, a blatant shout out, but this will be an anaconda thing, and that's what we're over there doing, and making that fishing category in anaconda really significant and substantial now, which is really bloody cool. But so it's exciting to be able to go over there and do some wheeling and dealing and going, hey, we could get momentum with this. So it might, we'll watch this space.
We'll see it in due course.
Absolutely. But to your point about what are we going to see? What's coming? What's exciting? And again, we will do you and I are going to be there working it after in a couple of weeks' time. So we'll do a wrap up post that.
Yeah.
But I am really excited with some of the rods and reels that are coming through. And again, it's not so much, brand new stuff like we've never ever seen before, but it's new ranges, new models, up-spec'd, cool stuff in your stable and in a lot of the other trade partners as well. So there's going to be some cool stuff coming out. So just keep an eye out for some of the new ranges and new models in rods and reels. But in the lure space, there'll be there's always a shitload. How good are lures?
Yeah, we'll never be.
It's going to be great.
We'll never be starved of choice.
Yeah, and this is globally. This is the time of year. Well, when I say globally, certainly for us, but obviously in the States as well. This is the time of year that the new gets released. So it's always an exciting time of year.
Exactly.
So I love it. So.
Well, it's also the time where some of the global embargoes actually lift.
So, yeah, exactly.
I've already seen on social media some of the releases coming from people like Shimano and Daiwa. Yep. We've seen now that the Australian divisions of those companies are starting to tell us what we're going to see in 3 weeks' time.
Exactly.
At after. So it is the most exciting time for new product in our industry.
The beauty is for us too. It's perfect time of year. We're leading into the best time of year, spring and then summer. So it's actually it's great. It's an awesome time to be starting to get excited and up and about for this stuff coming through. So I reckon the after show post that we can go right into detail about what's hitting the Australian market for sure, which would be cool because there is a lot. There's some really cool stuff coming through. I think for the American stuff what was interesting was obviously the bass the worms, soft plastics that they use for, there were about 50 of those that were new, and they're all getting excited about them. Like, isn't it the same thing?
Because some of them literally are just a tube of plastic. There's no tail. There's no head. It's just it's like
And a lot of them, they just whack a hook through the middle of it.
I was going to say, it's almost
nothing
like
finesse about it.
Yeah, it's almost like the bit that squirts out the end of the mold. Like they've turned that into a thing of its own.
It's like, oh, what are we going to do with this excess soft plastic?
Just stick it in a packet, baby.
Bag it up. We'll fucking sell that.
It's a game on.
They're not all the same size. Doesn't matter. It's more realistic.
No, that's good. We need range. We need a range.
It's depth in that. Oh, we've stumbled on something, boys. So it's funny. And look, I'll just completely honest. I don't know that industry. That bass market is so foreign to me as far as and when I say so foreign, I know all the product and what it is and what it does, so to speak. There were some celebrities kicking around in bass tournament shirts that I have no idea who they are. And when I say celebrities, like in our fishing industry, in the American fish, mate, there were people hanging off it. And I'm like, excuse me, mate, I'm just trying to grab a beer.
Yeah, you're in the way of the bar. Just move along, can you?
I saw Carl. I caught up with Carl. He was there representing Australia, obviously.
Giddy up, nice.
Had a quick chat. It's always nice to hear an Australian accent when you're in a place like that. So we had I caught up with him briefly, just said g'day. So that was good.
Were there any
only person that I know in that industry in that sport?
Were there any Australian exhibitors at ICAST?
Yep, there were. Yeah, there were. There was Halco.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so they're sort of tapping into that American market now, which was cool.
Yep.
And shout out to those boys. As we know, we've had Curtis Waterman on the show. Just a great bunch of fellas. And they're doing well, so which is great. And they had, mate, every time I saw them or walk past the stand, they had the Yanks piling on it. So
because
they've got some cool stuff that they'll be showing it after this year, which is it's going to be epic actually.
But that's another thing that I think is so unbelievably critical to anything we do in Australia. If we can get some of the Australian manufacturers and wholesalers, showcasing their talents over at ICAST.
Yeah.
I think that's
for sure. And I think, again, like, I think that alone is saying, hey, we've got our shits. We know what we're doing over here.
Yeah, we got some cool shit over here.
Yeah, and some of the raps that just in general conversation throughout the show that you heard people talking about, did you see that at Halco? I'm like, that's cool. It makes you feel good.
Yeah.
Snapbait. So shout out to Paul from Snapbait. He was over there working his ass off, and he got hammered. Like he had heaps of interest, which was really good. He's already got a pretty solid fan base in the States. With like he sells online into the States quite a bit, so he's now obviously looking to really build on that, which was cool.
Yep.
And I mean, it's built. It's kind of in its infancy in a way here. Like we're in WA, obviously, is where it sort of originates. It's huge and growing in the Queensland market too. So that was good to see him there. And Ocean's Legacy. So
nice
with Alan. He's obviously
because they're one that I reckon have exploded even in the Australian market.
Yeah, well, he's been exhibiting over there for a couple of years, and I think they're doing okay. I don't know, but it's a pretty solid catalogue of product that Alan's doing with Ocean's Legacy. So it was good. I think that was it. I can't remember if there was any others, but there were a few of the Aussie wholesalers floating around, and it's always good for a few beers.
Yeah.
Actually, and AFN.
Oh, yes,
Bill
Billy
Klassen is an ICAST regular.
Yep.
Shout out to Bill, won an award.
Yes, I saw this online.
Yeah, the pliers that a set of pliers he's doing, and you might go, pliers, but they're actually legit. Now, the category it fell under was fly fishing tools or something like that, but they're far from just a fly fishing tool. They're a general purpose tool every day of the week. So it was cool, and I was wrapped for Bill.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Tell me about actually, no, we'll do that in the after wrap up.
The pliers?
I was fascinated. I saw it online. I'm like, a set of pliers. People care about pliers. But
well, it's a category. It's a massive category. Everyone's got pliers, right?
True.
We'll pinch a pair off him at after and talk about
unboxing.
Yeah, Bill, I'm borrowing these.
Yeah,
you're not getting
forever.
Them back. Yeah, but so they'll be hitting our market real soon. And they're good, like I said, good quality. Heaps of clothing. Like, geez, they're nuts for their clothing over there.
Tournament shirts?
Yeah, a lot of it actually is more casual wear, which was interesting.
Nice.
Tees and look, they're in the middle of summer, so it was mainly summer wear.
All right, I'm gonna throw this out there because I think. I feel as though in Australia that is one specific category that could be and should be heaps bigger. Fishing apparel.
Well,
not for fishing itself. I'm talking fishing brand-based casual apparel.
Casual apparel.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. I think we saw, what am I going to say, 10 to 15 years ago when Pelagic was in our store ads.
Yep.
And I call a lot of what we had there casual wear because it was tees and whatever.
Yep.
And it went nuts for us. And I know it did for that whole Tackle World group at the time. But I think you're right. I think we've
seen it more.
Apparel has been a massive category across, the industry for a long time, but it's probably a lot of it's been centered around your favourite tournament shirts. So sublimated shirts, the vented shirts, rainwear. And, mate, rightly so. It's all
specifically what you wear while you're fishing.
While fishing, yeah.
Not what you just wear when you're not fishing.
Mate, I couldn't agree more. And I think there's you look at the surf sort of casual wear industry, it's just enormous. And reality is, it doesn't really matter what's on it. You just make it cool. So if it says Rapala or Shimano or the Deep Drop, as long as it's a cool design, that's kind of the thing. And I think where you're going is, why isn't it retailed in fishing tackle stores more, or it could be more?
Or even just, I mean, maybe retailed more in tackle stores. I understand why it's not, because it demands a massive amount of real estate in any shop. The footprint of it is not small. So, but there doesn't seem to be a calling for it. I mean, we saw, Salty Crew, it's probably been the...
Oh, yeah, true.
They've probably been the latest... Dissolve has done some pretty cool stuff.
Yeah.
There is stuff around that you can find, but I still don't feel as though, I feel as though it should get to a point, or it should be at a point where majority of the tackle stores kind of have at least one of those brands. They pick the brand they like the most, and they become, a dealer of that range of clothing.
I agree. And I think we might see it a bit more, but I think that, so it's obviously huge over there. Like caps, far out. If I didn't see 40,000 different caps, I'll go, hey, seriously.
Even just
there was a Flex Fit vending machine.
That's
it was
awesome.
about 9 foot tall and about 8 foot wide, and it was just,
That's awesome. But see, even that though, Luke, caps, just take caps, the most basic form of clothing. I wear them. On a weekend, if I'm just cruising around doing whatever, I'm not doing me bloody hair. I'm wearing a cap. You don't see caps.
Yeah.
In any sort of magnitude in many tackle stores.
Yeah.
I wonder why. I don't. It's something I don't understand. It's weird.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
No, you're right. And again, there's a couple of brands that have done it quite well, but it could be.
As in, not even brands not doing it well. I think
represented in
I think they
stores.
do it as well as what they physically can. I know with Rapala in Australia, we have 3 or 4 different caps. Are they huge sellers? Probably not really. I wonder why there isn't the market for a half, not even like a wall full, but again, I feel as though every tackle shop should probably have 5, 6, 7, 8 different styles of cap.
Yeah. Yep.
That people would buy.
I agree. And
It's
the Yanks
an
agree.
interesting one. Yeah, they get it.
Yeah. Well, there's plenty more heads over there to put caps on.
Yeah,
but
100%.
Jesus, far out. There were shitloads of them. And look, the electronics thing's big. The big players in that space were there in full force, and they don't fuck around when it comes to their stands. It's far out. So yeah, it was a lot to take in. It was a big sort of week or so. It was an awesome experience, that's for sure. Like we've said before, it was stuff that the sort of thing that we've spoken about for a long time. So to go and do it, witness it, be a part of it was really cool.
So is it something in the future that you would it be, if you had the opportunity, an automatic pencil in every year? Or do you feel as though it's an event that you need to experience once as someone that's hardcore into fishing gear?
As in for me,
you personally.
Every year, not a problem.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to go every single year. Because I think the thing is, and rephrase that, I would be happy to go every year. Do you need to? I don't know. Maybe it's not the worst thing if you happen to miss one. You'd go every second year or whatever. But I don't know. I still think that it's important to go to those things. It's like our local trade show ads.
I agree.
If nothing else, you're just keeping your finger on the pulse with what's happening, and it's different for probably us too, that with different positions in the industry and as opposed to punters, because it's not open to the public, ICAST, at all. So there's no public day or anything like that.
Yep.
It's very much an industry event. So, comes up next year. I'm there in a heartbeat.
That's awesome.
And then, there's a couple others around the world that I'd like to tick off as well. But Jesus, I don't think they compare in scale to ICAST. I don't think. I mean, a couple of the Japan shows.
I'd say the Osaka
would
that'd be cool.
Is the next on the list. So
that's
just float that idea out there to the business.
That's right.
Deep drop. We could do it.
Hey, I'm in.
How's your Japanese?
Sign me up.
You can be a translator?
No, don't need to. All the phones are that good now. Like AI
true.
and stuff. We'll just talk into our phones and it can spit it out in Japanese for it.
It was good to see, and it probably speaks to the importance and the size and magnitude of ICAST. A lot of the heads of the global sales heads or whatever you want to call them were there. So a lot of the Japanese brands, the big bosses, were there.
That's cool.
Around.
Were there many stalls and European or Asian brands that actually had representation over there that were trying to showcase gear?
There were, like I said, obviously, the Japanese brands, which are the big ones as well. But then, there were plenty of those. There were a few, or quite a few actually, of the companies from China that obviously had their own factories and stuff were over showcasing what they can do, I suppose, from a
that's pretty
development point of view. Yeah, there were a number of those, which is, I suppose, handy for international wholesalers that might be there that sort of are looking to take, do some product development, and maybe even some of the pro stores over there do their own thing too.
Because even just that in itself can be a little bit controversial among, say, companies that are already doing their own manufacturing.
I didn't expect to see the Chinese factories there, to be honest. I was a bit surprised when I saw them. I saw sort of one, and I thought, but then there was plenty there, so it's obviously a thing that they're welcome to go.
There's a separate trade show specifically for that.
China fish, which is another one I'd love to go to. Yeah. But it's kind of a different beast. It's not talking to the brands and the market. It's very different again.
Going direct to factory and
yeah. So it was a good blend. Like, I think it was just, it's even still just going through some of it today and just like, I almost forgot that. Like, it was just, there's so much to take in. But hopefully I've covered a bit of what you wanted to poke into about it, Ads. But
I could talk about it for hours.
Yeah. Let's do it. Let's just go. Let's make this one a 4.5 hour show.
No, I could, because I like I like trying to find the smaller things about it. Like the whole tackle part of it, unbelievable. I don't think it could. There is not a scenario in this world where just the sheer amount of fishing tackle would be shit. As in, you're not going to go to ICAST for the first time and come back and go, pretty shit. Like, because there's just
and if you do, you're in the wrong industry.
Yeah, that's right. There's just so much cool shit. I really wanted to get a snapshot of like the vibe, like the feel, like it is, because listen, it has been tough times globally when it comes to, keeping up with manufacturing. Obviously the cost to manufacture is as high as it's been in a long time. Freight's at an all-time high. It is pretty tough out there. And Luke, you actually put me onto a podcast before you left, or a couple of weeks before you left, where they were talking to the boss of the American Sports Fishing Association about the state of their industry over there and what ICAST was going to be like. Fascinating. Then it's pretty much the same as what it is here. It has been pretty tough. It will be pretty tough.
Yeah.
I like to hone in on that sort of thing. I think it gives a clear snapshot of specifically where we're at as an industry. Yeah.
Do you know what I loved about it? And it's kind of one of the things I like about AFTA too. For people like you and I especially, but it's such a good vibe.
Yeah.
Everyone's in, everyone's there. They've got a job to do. Like you're not, because like I said, it's an industry event. So it's not sort of just walking around and checking stuff out. You do it. Everyone's there with a purpose or whatever. But everyone's there in the industry that they're in, talking to people in that same industry. It just presents this vibe that's really, it brings everyone together. I think it was really cool. It's very positive. ICAST was super positive. Like there was so many, just conversations between all sorts of different people and, from different walks of life and different places around the world, really. And I love that sort of stuff. And, like I said, sort of afternoons roll around and it's beer o'clock and most of the stands have got a bar that's set up and you go and have a beer with someone from bloody, California talking about the fit. Like, I love that stuff. And I think that's the sort of thing where I'm proud of the industry that you're in, albeit in another country, but you sort of, you bring it back home too. And it's the same. It'll be the same in a couple of weeks' time up on the Gold Coast where we all get together and celebrate the industry that we're in. I think it's important.
For sure.
Yeah.
And it's all about it's all about to start for us here in Australia too. So I'm actually heading to a trade show for Rapala in Melbourne tomorrow.
Now.
Yeah, pretty much. And then from there, a couple of weeks now, we're at the industry trade show on the Gold Coast. And I can't wait to wrap that up on this podcast.
Yeah,
because it's an exciting time for us. We come out of winter where it's as dead as it's ever going to get for our industry. Heart of winter, AFL's in full swing. It's you're competing for a lot of attention, but now this is our game time. We see the new stuff. We're heading into season. We're all excited and up and about. It's the best.
Yeah. Oh, no, for sure. And look, it's also very aware of this sort of conversation and the one post-after as well. It's not for everyone. So there'll be people listening going, I don't really care. I just want to hear Luke and Adam talk about stupid shit.
We'll be back with that. Don't you worry.
We'll be back with that. But it was sort of remiss of us not to talk about ICAST and obviously after as well. And I know that there's people that are really interested in it. So, and it's not, given that you can't just go to those events, although after it does have a public day, but I mean, it's on the Gold Coast. But I think it's good. It's good to talk about. Hopefully you guys can get something out of it and get excited about what's coming in the back end of this year. It's going to be across all brands, across all categories within the fishing product spectrum. There's some really cool stuff coming out.
Yeah, and listen, because we have just done a little recap of ICAST, it doesn't mean you can't get involved. Head on over to Instagram, follow the Deep Drop, keep an eye on Spotify for all the bits and pieces that Luke will be playing with there, because I have no idea what it is. But head over and have a look. Shoot Luke a question. He was there. Well, like,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if you've got questions about ICAST, if you, because I'm sure, Luke, I will be calling you daily with more stuff that I think of, because we're going to start to see the fallout of ICAST online now. And we'll see all of the releases coming. We'll see it all. Hit us up.
It's kind of the top of the waterfall, isn't it? When ICAST sort of drops, it's like now everything starts flowing through to the masses, international markets.
Yep, it's awesome.
So yeah, like if you've got any questions on it, absolutely hit us up on Instagram, shoot us a message or whatever. And I'm no expert, but it was bloody good to be there and check it all out. The deepdrop.au is the website if you want to go check out what's happening over there. We've got some announcements coming up, ads.
Yeah, a bit of stuff happening
during the week, so stay tuned. Probably Instagram's the best place to do that.
Yep.
Share the podcast with as many people as you can. That's your challenge for this week, ladies and gentlemen. Share it around. Actually, do you know what I did a lot while I was travelling? Listen to the Deep Drop Fishing Tunes playlist.
Oh, classic travelling playlist.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like, just rolling in from a bit of Limp Bizkit, Rage Against the Machine, Audio Slave, Pearl Jam, Foo Fighters. Like, come on. Like, get you through a day.
Bit of Grinspoon. There's a couple
Grinspoon.
of Grinspoon
Yeah,
bangers.
there's some local bangers. Like, So don't, if you're having because some of this weather's shit and it's hard to get through a work day, mate, whack your AirPods in. Or just crank it loud.
Don't.
Yeah, so everyone...
Hook it up to a Bluetooth speaker.
Yeah.
and just
go hard with
hit shuffle and rock the hell out.
Yeah, and just walk away. Because you don't need to worry about skipping.
No. Not an option. Won't even cross your mind.
Unless there's kids around.
Oh, no, they got to learn, Luke.
Or customers, if you're in a retail environment.
Oh, yeah, maybe don't put it on the shop. You know what, though? I would lose my shit if I walked into a tackle shop and heard a bit of,
it's
bit of Rage Against the Machine belting out in the back.
Yeah, it's a solid playlist. So if you search, I think the Deep Drop Fishing Tunes, I think is, if you search that. If you're struggling with it, let us know. We'll send you the link. Yeah. It's there for your enjoyment.
It's worth
Go
listening.
nuts. Yeah. All right, well, Adam, we've got a big few weeks coming up, mate.
We do.
And we've got all sorts of things happening. We've got some planning to do. This is episode 98. Yeah. So we're nearing that 100 mark. I know we got some feedback about what we should do on the 100th. We haven't landed on anything yet.
Yeah, nothing like leaving it to the last
Not going to
minute.
lie, just being honest. But there was a bit of a spanner thrown in the works over the last couple of weeks. Yeah. But we've got plenty there. So just stay tuned because I think we've got it's going to be good. We're going to have a bit of fun over the next few weeks with whatever we're doing because we've got, like I said, a couple of announcements. Going to have a bit of fun with some of the trade shows and obviously some milestones to hit on the podcast. So thank you everyone for joining us once again. It's good to be back in the country. Not going to lie. Australia is I don't want to make this political, but Jesus, we've got a good country.
Well, for me personally, it's nice to be able to have an idea or a thought now and be able to call you again.
Well, you could have called me. It was just the middle of the night.
I'm still stuck at the dark age. I didn't know if it was going to cost me $150 to call you over there. I didn't know if it was bloody midnight, midday. I just thought I'll wait for him to get back.
You sent me a message. Yeah, I think you sent me a message saying, "Oh, not sure if you'll get this."
Yeah.
So I just rang you, and you're like, "Oh,
shit, you back? What happened?"
No, mobile phones. That's yeah.
I'm special.
We're back on
I'm
deck.
a special unit.
I don't really. You still post me letters writing asking how
worldly.
I'm going. No, it's been a while since I've been to the States. I'll be honest. It's not they can't do a coffee.
Okay, I'm not a huge coffee person anyway, so it wouldn't worry me.
No, you'd be right. Food there is like I reckon I'll put on a couple of kilos in a week and a half. But it's a good play. And you know what? Shout out. And it's probably sentimental to you a little bit in Orlando. You're a Magic fan.
I'm a Magic fan. I did. Not going to lie.
Good part of the world. I liked it. I liked Orlando. Florida itself right now is just 38 degrees on average and about 4 billion% humidity. It's not nice.
So there was a few Banchero jerseys floating around, was there?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
Don't get me wrong. It's a magic town, mate. Yeah, it was went past the Kia Center.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, went past that. Gave it a bit of a Adam said hi.
Yeah, it's on the bucket list. That.
Yeah, unfortunately, obviously we're
out of season.
Out of season because I could have snuck in a Magic game. It would have been pretty.
And the Magic are coming. Don't worry about that.
Apparently.
They're coming.
Apparently so.
No, there's no apparently about it. They're coming.
The city will go off.
They're coming.
So thanks for having me, Florida. Back on deck. Deep drops rolling. We've got a big couple of weeks. Thanks for sticking around.
Yeah, we better sort out what we're doing for 100.
Yeah, come on.
All right.
I would have thought it would be all organised when I got back, to be honest.
Well, it's not. So let's end the pod and we need to chat.
Righto. Thank you, everyone. We'll speak to you again real soon.
Peace.